Breakdowns.
Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. The podcast is back. I took a little bit of month off. We had a little mishap. We were down a camera, but we are back at it. We got a new setup, and it's kind of like it's kind of cool that it was camera issues, and the first person coming back is an actual like photographer and concert photographer, and has been doing it for a little bit. And I've gotten to know him. We're friends now, but I'm excited. We have Brent here from. You know what? I don't know how to say this. I've just seen your logo a bunch of times, but I want to say it right.
Dallandria.
Dallandria. Okay, I've been wanting to know like what is that about?
Okay, yeah. So of course Dallandria comes from two names of two cities. It's pretty simple.
Okay.
Dallas, Texas, and then Alexandria, Alabama. Alexandria, Alabama is just some very small podunk town that I grew up in for 25 years. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a representation of where I've been and where I'm currently at.
That's really cool. I was thinking it was along the lines of like Dallas, but I was like, I don't know where the Andrea is from. But you just, it hasn't, when we were talking, like it hasn't been that long ago that you moved to Texas.
Nope. It was November 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've been here about 2.5 years.
Okay. And how long was it before you started to actually like before we get to that, before when you were in Alabama, were you already like taking up photography?
I was not. I just didn't have the funds. I was involved in kind of the Atlanta music scene weirdly.
Okay.
But no. So I would speaking of that, I would drive 100 miles to Atlanta, 100 miles back, doing a free internship about like 3 days out of the week while doing a manufacturing job at home, just trying to be a part of the music scene.
Oh my gosh. What the heck? I mean, what were you doing for the internship?
I was doing a lot of marketing and promotions.
Okay. But how long 100 miles? That's like what, like 2 hours out there? Yeah. Wow. Every day there. Mm-hmm. Well, that's just one way. So 4-hour commute every day.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Just to be a part of the music. I mean,
just to make it work
when you want like it to be around it. I mean, I guess that's got to be one of the biggest conveniences about moving to Texas, and then specifically the DFW area, because you're so close to it, I think now.
Definitely, yeah. That's one of the reasons I actually moved here. Like, I did a lot of research. Like, I did an Excel spreadsheet, like different cities, Austin, I think Boise was one of them, weirdly.
Okay.
Dallas, Atlanta. Really? Yeah, I just kind of ranked them. It was like when I got laid off from work, I was like, you know what? I am so tired of living here. I want to get out. And I'm going to make it happen before I turn 25.
Oh, my gosh. See, that's a big move that, like, people make that realization, but, like, being able to follow through on that is the big part. And it must be scary, like, because you were coming out here with basically not family or anybody out here, or like right?
Well, my ex, we moved out here with our 3 dogs, but that was all.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. So it's again terrifying. Like, I mean, for me, just like outside for a second, I'm looking at it, it's like, holy crap! Like I'm moving over for one thing, and to try to be part of it. But I think. How is it like? Does it felt like it's paid off a little bit as far as like
definitely.
What you want?
It's I've grown so much as a person. I have found a really good partner, and like I just love being a part of this music scene.
That's honestly really awesome. And I think again that's one of the things that I don't take for granted now, but I think I did early on into the music scene, is that like I was lucky to be here, because like when I started like a band and was like playing shows and stuff, like there's places to play like all over the place, like there's shows happening every week, there's a bunch you can go to, different stuff. And it wasn't until I talked to people who weren't from here where it's like, we have to, it's like there's nothing around, like we have to play like all the way outside. And it was always like these smaller touring bands that are coming around. It's like, we don't have much in like our scene or stuff like to play, and I'm like, we have tons of stuff here every week, you know what I mean? So it's really nice to have that, to be able to get out and go to shows. So when you got here, what was like your first, because you were doing like marketing and stuff before, and you weren't really doing photography per se yet. What kind of caused that jump for you when you got here?
Honestly, it was the stimulus check. So I was going to either try to get stuff that was like music production or I was going to do photography.
Okay.
So ultimately, I just decided on photography, not really sure why, but I used my stimulus check, got me like a entry-level camera, the Nikon D3500.
Okay.
Probably one of the best entry-level for concert photography. And honestly, I just went from there. First show I shot was Born of Osiris, hilariously.
What the fuck? Wait, how?
Because they were just giving out photo passes to anybody.
Oh, shit. That's fucking cool though.
It was Born of Osiris, Begotten, and I can't even remember the other band's name. Gosh.
Oh no, it's fine. It's the first one. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
Wow, a hell of a first show to go to, and I think for stuff like that is also like if you're out of that realm, like me right now, I'm like, I wouldn't know how to even start to do that. And one thing I've learned with like NoiseROT and like talking to DJ with like booking shows is like a lot of it is just asking. It's like you'll get a bunch of no's, but then you'll get like some yeses.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And just what are they going to say? Just no. You know what I mean? And I think right now for artists and everybody in general, it's like to offer photo passes. It's like every bit of like content that they get, from from letting people like come take pictures of them, it's like that's gonna be great for them. You know what I mean? So it's a benefit for them. Which that's the name of the game. So like everybody's like out here wanting to find ways to produce more things like that.
Oh yeah.
So about 2 years doing this, how have like you started to try to like develop like that skill? Like was it just like learning from somebody else or finding stuff online?
Well, part of it was YouTube University, as well as I had a fellow photographer friend. His name's Michael Ford. I don't know if you know him.
Michael,
Tone Jam, the Spit Jam Collective. He was one of the few people that actually took me aside and was like, "Look, I don't really think these are good," but in a good way because I asked him for constructive criticism. But he was like one of the first people that wasn't a yes man in my life. Like, this looks good. This looks no. He actually like broke it down for me and was like, gave me good criticisms. And each time, like I know the first time it did hurt a little bit. I was like, what does he know? And I'm like, wait, he's been doing this longer than me. He knows a lot. And just taking his criticism and critiques and just tweaking my work has really helped.
I think when learning everything, and if you're, like you said, in this case, you were seeking out, this person's, if you are seeking out somebody's help, like you really have to fight that urge to be like, well, like I came to you and you didn't agree with me. It's that first initial like kind of thought of like, damn it, I really wanted you to be like, oh, these are really good. But then there are cases where like, no, they're not, what I mean? Or it's like, oh, this is not, you don't get the reaction you want. And it's like, okay, instead of, the easiest thing is to become defensive and just like, well, fuck this guy, I'm not gonna go to him anymore. But then you need those to develop like what you're doing. Yes. Like you need to be able to take those hard criticisms, which is nice that you did.
It's one of those things that you don't want, but you need if you ever want to get to that next level.
Oh yeah, like I feel like you have to just lose a whole bunch before like there's a reason like you get to where you are, and a lot of it you yourself can reflect back. It's like, oh man, I remember when these were like really bad. It's just you need to be more happy with the progress rather than just like it's not where you want it to be. And I feel like for me, I had a lot of I would defeat myself before starting because I would look at end points on somebody and be like, I can't do that. Or I would like start something and immediately like anytime I wasn't good at something, like within the first like couple weeks, I'd be like, I'm never gonna get there. You know what I mean? And it's just I wasn't giving myself the time to learn it, and which honestly weeded out a bunch of stuff that I probably didn't even want to do. You know what I mean? It was just like doing it because like I maybe saw somebody else doing it cool. I'm like, it must be easy, and I can't do it. But I've had this conversation with people a lot before, but it was the way I realized how to find out what you're truly passionate about. And it's like, what's the stuff you find yourself working on for hours and nobody's telling you to do it, but you just like you yourself are like holding yourself accountable. It's like, no, I want this to be better. I want to do this, and just figuring stuff out. If you have fun figuring out problems with like what you're working at, I feel like that's a really like strong just like sign that's like, oh, okay, this is like kind of what you want to be doing right now. You should pursue that if that's working for you. Like I said, this podcast, I had to learn a whole bunch of shit that I had no idea how to do. And I'm just like, okay, but I find myself like working on it. And I'm just like, okay, like I do like doing this. So I'm going to keep working on it. So I feel like that's something that you've like done and reflecting on like the stuff that you've put out, because like you have one of my favorite photos, which I need to get a print
yeah, we need to get that
to put in here somewhere, but you have developed a few like different techniques that I haven't seen like not quite frequently like around, but you were showing me some of the stuff like at a show before, which is like it's like prisms and it's like different stuff. Is that something again that you just see like inspiration online to like find that stuff, or how like did those come from?
So I actually read an article about it, just saying ways to differentiate your photography, and that was one of them. But I think it was just for like portrait photography. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I just try it for my concert photography, see what happens?
Yeah.
So I can show them real quick.
Yeah.
All right. So here is my triangular prism that is beat up now.
That shit has been through the ringer.
Sometimes I'll just accidentally be drumming along with it, hit it or something. I'll drop it. Like sometimes I'll just drop it to see what happens. Just there's beauty in destruction, I think.
Yeah.
So I dropped it last time and actually have a little finger guard now.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, I just dropped it. And
I thought that was on purpose. That's just because it broke there.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Broke there. And then I have this one. I don't try to beat this one up too much, but it's more of a kaleidoscope.
That's freaking cool.
So with this one, that's how I get my kind of circular shots, where I will have the subject right in the middle, and then it kind of blurs off with like basically all of them, almost like it's like a multiverse.
Yeah. So you were here a while back when I had since Masada on. I took some behind the scenes, which I'm like literally like I'm about to post them up. But you were so nice enough to come do those, and then like that podcast, literally, they're like right before I put it out, I was like, "We're breaking up." And I'm like,
"Oh yeah,
okay."
That's so sad.
I was like, "All right, yeah, it does suck," because I'm like, "They were so happy here." Like I was like, "We were having a good." I was like, "It's a good time."
Yeah, I was like, and then they were about to play a show the next day, and I was like,
"Yeah." That's why I was like, "Wait, this can't like happen." When I found out, but I mean, it happens. And
yeah, definitely.
According to them, like everything's like on good terms with each other, so that's good. That's the good way. But you've been around again the scene and seen a bunch of bands come out of here. Are there any particular like standouts for you?
Bands in, I would say, the DFW area. I most recently, it's kind of biased, but Pillar of Wasp I really was amazed by.
Pillar of Wasp is insane.
Like that guitar tone they had, I've never heard anything like that.
I was talking not this past show, but the show they played at Andy's, and I was talking to their drummer. He flies in from Colorado to play shows. God. And I was just like, what? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, I live in Colorado. I'm like, you fly in to play shows? I'm like, holy shit. And this was before I had seen them. We were just talking, and then like I saw him, and I'm like, dude, you're so fucking good. Like, and that band is just really good in general. And I think this was like Tucker's first like shows with them, and dude, they I don't know, their dynamic just works. Like Tucker's really good. I didn't know Tucker like had those screams in him. To be honest with you, I was like, whoa! I was like, those shits are low, man.
And then another band, I would say, this is also a little bit biased, but of Jupiter, just seeing June grow as a vocalist personally, like, you know.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was doing vocalist like forever.
He's never done vocals in like a band before, but you know, now he's doing that, and it's just, I really like their sound because it kind of reminds me of kind of math rocky, but then also, you know, with some heavier parts, like he'll be doing gutturals. Like,
oh shit, really?
Yeah. So it's just kind of almost like an easy core vibe.
I see, and I feel like that's what I really want to see of Jupiter. Like we were talking about the show that they have coming up, but that's exactly the balance that I look for. Like in a lot of the projects that I listen to, I'm like, yeah, that's the shit that I like. And June's hella talented. Like, I mean, I met June through Zetabyte, and they're so sick. And June's super like nice. Like I remember on the Zetabyte podcast, we had them on, and literally like everybody else was just like gone, and June was like the only one having a conversation with me. But we got to talk, and we were like, I'm like, holy crap, be creative. And then I'm always seeing him like working on stuff at all times. Like, so always. I feel like he's like one of those people like with that attitude of just like, just being creative. Yeah, you find your outlets.
Like if we're trying to go somewhere and then I take too long to do something, he will just get behind his little drum pad and just start drumming for 5 or 10 minutes till I'm ready.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna start practicing, and then and then some, you know, Like, I'll just be chilling in his room. He'll be taking a shower. Then it sounds like he's doing a full vocal session in there. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay.
That's what I'm telling you. You find you find people who are creative and they just want to be creative, like at all times. We were talking about this, but we were talking about how in the scene in the area, there's tons of people doing like videography, photography, and stuff like that. So this is talking about more of like, I guess, your business side of it's like, oh, okay, just trying to find work and getting, it's not only like getting your name out there, but there's people who like, oh, I have my photographer. And we were talking about how to break into those like groups. How's that like process been going?
It's pretty tough here and there. Sometimes I will still shoot those bands because I'll get on a show with one of the bands maybe, and the others will be like, oh, I have a photographer, but I'll still send them over like 4 or 5 pictures just for the love of doing it. So that's kind of the way I do it business wise. Is just sometimes you have to do it for free, and then sometimes they'll hire you next time. Like I did that for Notions one time. I think it was a NoiseROT show. Did y'all book that show where it was
originally? Was that originally?
Originally, no, it was Haltom.
Haltom. Yeah, Haltom. We've done one with them on Haltom. It might have been the one.
I think it was Convictions.
Yeah, that was ours.
Yeah, that was the first show I shot of them, and then they saw those pictures, so they hired me for like 2 or 3 other shows after that.
Oh shit, tight. It is a thing that you'd have to kind of weigh out which one of those opportunities works. So I forgot who else I was talking to about it, and we're like, there are some where it's worth it. It's just figuring out the balance of when it stops being worth it. You know what I mean? Or actually, I was talking to it was Jade Alex that we were talking about, and we were. He said something that a band tried to pay her in merch, and I was like, oh. Yeah, like at certain points, like, oh, like if I was like, if that was, let's say like I was doing it and that was like my friends, and be like, maybe I go, but it was like complete strangers. So it's like also balancing like, okay, I also need to work, but also like which opportunities are going to help. Is that one, like I said, the Notions way, you took those for free and then eventually like, oh, they hired you for other stuff. Like, is there a possibility here for something else? And also the balance that we were talking about, which is, you need it to be fun, like because I think when we were talking, I think it was originally show when we were talking about this, but it was like losing a little bit of like the drive for it because, for example, I think it was like, man, like everybody's has their photographer and it's kind of hard, and when you're only doing it for business wise, then you start to see that as like, oh, I'm not good at this, and like or you start like, oh, maybe I should just stop, and then you kind of lose a little bit of the passion for it, which I felt in multiple like projects where the focus started being like more business instead of less like, and stopped doing the fun. I was like, there's a reason I started doing this, just for fun. So keeping that balance must be pretty hard. Yeah. How do you keep that kind of drive going?
I keep it going basically. I mean, as long as I'm getting my kind of, I get hit up for shows, that kind of keeps my drive going. If I don't get a show offer for a while, I'll go back and do re-edits of my photos, or I'll just take some, basically some like landscape, urban photography. So even if I'm not doing band photography, I'm always trying to stay creative. Yeah. Just so I can keep it fresh and keep it going.
Talking about being creative, you sent me some stuff the other day, and it's using the fucking so what is it, Photoshop, right? It has like a new AI, what's it called,
generative
AI, which I've been seeing a bunch of clips of it and people doing wild shit, but it's so you've had hands-on experience with it. What's this whole thing like kind of about?
Well, it's just really honestly insane. Like, so if I select like a subject and, I choose everything outside that subject, and you can basically with the generative AI, you can either let it randomize or you can type in what you want it to do. Okay. So if I just put like heavenly background or something, it's going to give me like 2 or 3 options, and you can keep regenerating it over and over.
Which is fucking wild. I think the one you sent me is like, it was like me on here, and I was just like talking to like it looked like just like an alternate version of myself. And I was like, holy shit, like that's what's gonna happen eventually. But I was talking to AI about with I think it was the dudes in Threnody. We were talking, and like it's getting really good, which is it's cool, and for me, I'm like, it's also kind of scary, like of what it's going for. But I think it's still at the point where it needs, well, first of all, guidance, like from whoever's doing, like it's got to make sense with what you're working with, and it doesn't always like completely work. I think it's really cool to further like. I ideas or flesh out or even just like inspire ideas out of it.
Definitely.
But I don't. I still am always going to argue for like it still needs like human touch. Like there's no way I don't think it can get away with it. But in your experience, like how do you feel about like tools like that coming out?
I think if you use them as tools, they're good. Like if you use it for your whole creative process, maybe not.
Yeah.
Because you'll be able to see right through it, especially like with pictures. If you just have an AI generated picture, most of the time you can tell. You know, if you look at the pixels and such, or there's going to be something, they're going to have like 3 fingers or
hands,
2
right? Hands.
Yeah.
I've never seen I haven't seen one nail hands yet. Like for some reason, like fingers, it's always like adding an extra one or taking one out, which is very interesting. But I think it's wild in how many aspects they've added AI to like, you know, Chat GPT or like just people doing like deep fakes and with AI now and just creating dialogue. And apparently like people are selling like their rights to them or I know who was it? I know
was it Grimes?
I don't know any like musical artists, but I know I think Bruce Willis did it, and then Darth Vader was it?
Oh my, I know what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna hate myself.
I can't even. Yeah,
and Mufasa, that guy, James Earl Jones, right? James Earl Jones, I think it's James. Something like that. But like, so they can use his voice and AI generate it for like later. So I'm like, oh, so Darth Vader's gonna have a voice forever. So like, and stuff like that, I feel like it's cool. Like I'm like, oh, it's really cool. Like you're gonna be able to see that. But then again, I have to always like tip the scale on the other end and be like, oh shit, like, are we gonna know it's real? Like eventually anymore? That's the only like trippy part.
It's
scary
very
part.
Black Mirror like. Like there was. Did you ever watch that one episode? I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. It came out where I think Miley Cyrus was in it, and basically they like poisoned her or something, put her in a coma, and got her voice basically, and made AI songs with it, and was just continuing to pump it out.
What the fuck? No, I didn't see that one.
And it's just like we're so close to that already.
But it really, I mean, they've been doing it. They've been doing like with songs and stuff like that. There's like, again, there's so many ends to the spectrum because like right now, like my TikTok is flooded with Plankton singing songs, and I don't know why I enjoy it so much because I think I heard it was saying like "Diamonds" by Rihanna, and I'm like, why does he sound so passionate about this? Like I'm almost crying here. And then the other end was that whole like shit would happen with like the Weeknd and Drake song where they were like people thought I was like, oh, it's a real song. I was like, no, it's all AI. I'm like, that's wild. It's like, you know what I mean? So it is very interesting where it's gonna go with stuff. But yeah, also like just like I haven't fucked with Chat GPT, but I've seen like people use it for like different things. But like my girlfriend used it to construct an email review for like an Airbnb we were at.
Oh yeah.
And it was so good. I'm just like, that's fucking great. And I think like people are using like for work responses and stuff like that. I'm like, that's kind of cool, like for things. But it's again like it's just relying heavily on that is the part that I feel like is people will have to balance that.
Oh
out.
yeah, definitely.
And I just don't know like how everybody's gonna deal with most of that stuff.
Like at my work, I will put my whole email into Chat GPT just to make sure it's professional and doesn't have any like spelling errors.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm like, is this professional? Is there a better way to write this?
See, I think that's like really cool because like it's really tedious sometimes to have to think about like, well, how should I be saying this? You know what I mean? Or the fact that like certain responses require like a professional like just way of saying things, and I was like, oh, okay. So I like that it helps with stuff like that. And there's tons of stuff that's just really good. If it's used correctly, I just think it's really interesting. In art is the part where I'm like, there's no way like it's gonna ever completely take over.
Yeah, definitely. Like even in my photography, if I'm not doing a heavy edit, I'll just use it to basically like remove microphones or remove something like that, or like expand the photo just a little bit. Yeah, but never like full on changing every single thing about it.
See, that's stuff like that. I think it's like really cool because I mean, there's ways that you could go in there manually and like figure out a way to remove them, like, but a quick way to just like, let's get rid of stuff that doesn't require that creative touch. It's just like, a mic's in the way or something like that. Yeah. Is really cool. And then I think honestly just the fun aspect of it is really neat. Yeah. Where it's just,
and that photo you were talking about from the Golden Week photo I took of Ricky, I actually took that one and used some AI behind it. I think he posted them. It was like it looked like a solar background and everything. It looked wild.
Oh yeah. I did see some of those, which is again, sometimes it just makes some cool looking stuff and it's fun. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think once as long as it doesn't stop being fun, but there'll be creative ways to do it, and then people will always like find ways to just mess around and do it. Like I said, plankton.
Plankton covers. Most of my photos, I really don't rely heavily on Photoshop. It's just a Prism and Lightroom.
Really?
The only time I really use Photoshop is just to remove like certain small blemishes or like a person in the background, but never like to do the effects.
Nice. I've always tried. It was kind of cool. At the Pillar of Wall show, was the first time I really took my camera back out and tried to like shoot stuff. And I forgot how fun that. I mean, I've never done fun. Like concert stuff, but I literally am part of a company that does concerts and things like that. So I'm like, I should get good at this, like, or let me try. And that shit was fun because like every day since then, I've been working on one of those clips. Like I'm learning little bit by little bit, and I'm just and I have to. Again, I need to be okay with these not looking like
definitely.
What I'm watching and stuff like that. I go, but for my purpose, like it's gonna do super well. I go, because I need to put out stuff. I go, it's fun, like, because I get to. It's always a different band, so I'm like, okay, we need to figure out what vibe works for this band, what vibe. So literally, from like the first show that I did to the second show that I filmed, I was just like, okay, these bands require this. Like, oh, maybe I did a little too much shaking here, like, on subjects, and then I started like messing with my camera, because like with the podcast, I really don't have to mess with much. Like settings stay the same, like they're over there, they're filming, and there's nothing really to it once they're set up. Out in venues, like every venue is gonna have a different lighting thing. So like I figured out the lighting for what was that, Club Dada, and I was like, oh, okay. So I messed with like my ISO settings, and I'm like, oh, this looks way the fuck better. And I'm like, I tried them again. We had a show at the Cicada, and I tried it again. I'm like, oh shit, this doesn't work at all. I'm like, fuck. And I couldn't figure that one out, but I'm like, okay, now I know that I need to figure out how to do like these things, and they might be like post things, because like it was like colors, like they had like one of them had a really bright red light on them, so they just look free. I'm like, I don't think I can do anything off the camera. Like I think I'll have to figure it out later. And then like the other side was just like super bright blue, and I'm like, okay, like I'll need to figure these out eventually. But it again is challenging and fun, which I think it needs to have that balance. Like it can't be super easy, but it also needs to have little learning bits where you're like, oh, I actually want to figure out how to do these.
Exactly. And the cop out kind of for like if you can't do the colors or if it's just too much, honestly, the cop out for most photographers is turn it black and white. Because if you turn it black and white, if it's blurry, if it's out of focus, it will still like look good, or at least better.
So I mean, I honestly, that's one thing I did figure out with the line, and I messed up on the first. I mean, again, I was just getting my feet wet, but I would like had everything like on auto, I think was the ISO auto setting, and it was just like I was like, well, it looks good, but then I messed with it at the Club Dada show and like turned the ISO down. I'm like, oh, so it made everything dark was dark, but the subjects were all lit up. I'm like, this looks really cool, but it takes out a little bit of anything that would have been blurry or like not captured full color in, and it just focused on subjects. I'm like, oh, this worked out better. So like this looks better, and you can. To me, it already excited me because I'm like, dude, that's 2 shows, and like I made a little progress. Oh, yeah, definitely. It's just like little things to do it better, but it's a completely like different world for me because when I picked the camera. And I got mine was because I started a vlog channel. So I'm I literally just looked up. I'm just like, what's the best? And not really affordable because, I mean, I guess compared to like most cameras it is. But I just needed something. I'm like, I'm going to be moving this sucker around. I don't want to worry about autofocus. And Sony's were really good like for autofocusing on stuff and subjects while moving around. I'm like, I'm okay with that. But as far as that, like, I didn't know shit. I looked up a YouTube video that told me how to set it up, and that was it. I'm like, great. Okay. But as far as messing with it, that's where like I left it there. I was like, oh, like I know very little about that. But it's also like helping me actually get involved in like, okay, why should, the shutter speed be this, or why should the ISO be that? Because I know the terms, and I know them like from a long time ago because I worked at Best Buy for like 3 years, and I took like a course for them, and I'm like, oh, I kind of get this, but if you don't keep up with it, I don't remember at all, like because it was like they always pointed like a triangle, right?
Triangle, ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. That
was the thing. Yeah, and I still like. I still kind of remember, but I never like really understood how to put it together because I never had a camera of my own, like to really mess it. But you said like, so the stimulus check was kind of really where you made that decision. I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna buy like my setup and start that way. You've upgraded since?
Right?
Yeah,
I've upgraded. So I actually have this camera now. It's a Nikon D750, and the biggest difference, it's a lot bulkier, but there's just a lot more bells and whistles too.
Okay.
I can do a lot more. Like with my old camera, I couldn't do like the multi shots where you do it, where it's just like takes like 30 shots.
Where you like just hold it down and just like...
The old camera can do that. This one can. It's very beneficial because sometimes you'll get like kind of the same scene, but you might get their mouth open or you might get them doing something that looks a lot better than the photo before. And
as far as I know, with concert photography, like a bunch of shots, also you like, again, like if you're just taking single shots at a time, you either miss the stuff or like if that one didn't turn out, like you miss a moment. But if you could take a bunch, you can capture kind of like that entire.
Yeah, and I try not to do like spray and pray, so it's still like a moment I try to get, because like of all those 20 or 30 photos, it's going to be one tops that comes out of it.
Yeah, very.
So that's another thing about editing is just, you have to purge half of those photos too. So sometimes, I might give 12 to 10 photos out, but they're like the best of the best, but I might end up taking like 800, 900 photos during a show.
Like that's it, the entire show, like per bed.
The entire show. That's
still a shit ton to go through. And how long do you usually dedicate to sitting down and like doing those?
At least a few, like maybe 5-6 hours at least, like, or I would say if like there's like 4 bands, maybe like 10 hours total. Like I'll just like say if it's a show Sunday, I'll shoot the photos. I won't have time because I'll be going to work at 6 a.m. the next day. But then when I get home, basically I'll devote all my time to just editing. I'll turn on some music, lay next to my dog, and I'll just edit all night. And it's never felt like a chore. I've always loved the editing process.
Yeah.
Like some people love shooting but don't like the editing, but I really love diving into the editing.
I think you require like a love for both in order to really get it done, and that's it's. I think that's with a lot of stuff. Like when, like in music, like I used to always have the. I really like writing and performing, but all the other stuff, I'm just like, it's not my like. I don't like focusing on that stuff.
No. And another thing with music is I actually play guitar, but it's just one of those things where I don't find myself picking it up a lot. I'll pick it up maybe 2 or 3 times a month, but I enjoy it really well, but I just don't sit down and dedicate to practicing that over and over and over.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, June's tried to help me out with like trying to hash out parts, but I just never get the inspiration to do it. Then I'm just like, my inspiration's like 2 a.m. on like a Saturday or something like that.
Just randomly pick it up and just like, all right, I guess I'll play it. Yeah, it all goes. I think it all goes back to that again. That thought of like, it's what do you spend your time on? That like, again, no one tells you to do this shit. No one's like, it's not required of you. But like, what do you find yourself spending the time on? What makes it easier? What do you enjoy doing? Like, it can't become a chore. And the only time like stuff like has become that when I am doing something is if I lose focus, because I've had that's happened to me with the podcast quite a bit. And if I take a break from it, and it's because it's not always a break on purpose. I'm not like, okay, let me take some time off. It's always like I slacked off and now I'm behind, and I was like, I guess I'm not doing it. And then in those like week or two, I start telling, like my brain keeps telling me like, oh, you hate doing this. Like, why do you even do this? Is it even worth it? And I come back and I do one, and I'm just like, this is why. I go, because I have a lot of fun. Obviously I get to talk to cool ass people all the time. And then when I go back to the edit, I get to literally watch the conversation take place and like enjoy it all over again, and like doing my own little cuts. Like I like normally like a lot of comedic timing and stuff like that, so I get to like pick those. I'm like, things like I enjoy doing that, which is why like I hadn't myself been behind the camera, and that's why at the Pillar of Wow show I was like, this was, and then the show before that I was just like, this is really fun. I like doing this. Like I just need to keep at it. Yeah, exactly. And another thing I think that hurts me in that situation is just comparison. Comparison is the thief of joy, as they say, because like you're gonna look at somebody who is touring the world, who is doing this as a day, this is their day job. They have a $10,000, $20,000 setup, and you're like, well, hell, I'm never going to be able to do that. But that's the thing is, you don't even have to do that. You just have to enjoy what you're doing and enjoy the process.
Because, I mean, you might get there, but you might not. But as long as you're having fun and as long as you're doing what you want to do, that's what matters.
Yeah. I think it's a super big deal in every aspect that you should be doing. It's always just focusing on like your progress, your enjoyment. So like, how better are you from like when you started, or even like week to week? And it's like, and is it still fun for you? Like, are you still enjoying it? And I think that's a big thing. That's why with this, like, view counts and all that stuff really has never been something I focus on, because I'm more like, was this cool? I go, did the artist or whoever was here, did they enjoy it? And I go, did I have fun doing it? Sure, cool. Did it help them out? Can they use that? Because I was always like, can bands, again, everything's content these days. I'm like, so what's a way?
Exactly.
I go, in this way, I go, they have stuff that they can share and that they didn't have to make, that, you know, people can like share around, share their, you know, their business, their band, their music, whatever. And it's stuff that I can help out in that way. And again, for me, like, again, I just keep being able to flex that creative muscle. Not crazy entirely, but I mean, I've always just enjoyed this. It sounds funny, but I was like, I've always just enjoyed talking to people.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is like a nice way to do it with a longer format. Cause like, you know, sometimes when you're out at shows and stuff, you get a few, you know, little small talk, but that's the most you'll get unless you find dedicated time to do it.
Unless you like go and like try to message them, or you know, see them out somewhere, or, you know, attend something else, which I don't know why I'm on a tangent, but
go for it.
I just thought about like shows. It's funny because when June goes to a show with me, they're like, "Oh, is that your other photographer?" Or, "Oh, when's y'all's band playing?" Yeah, they will consume me, or they will assume we are everything but boyfriends.
Oh, my god,
it's hilarious.
So okay, so I mean, coming from that whole, we were talking about that, and we were talking about, I mean, again, if you don't want to talk about it,
I'm
but
good.
I know we were briefly talked about that when I think this is at the original show again.
Yeah,
coming from like where you were from to here, has it been a lot more like open as far as like the area for you to, because it's kind of where you open more of like how to open yourself up to be more of yourself, I guess is kind of what I got from the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, back in, I think it was 2014 when gay marriage got legalized, when all that happened. You know, we had Roy Moore, who literally restricted, you know, gay people being able to marry. Whenever they, you know, throughout the United States, they said it was legal. We had sanctity of marriage rallies at like my local like lake and stuff like that. So it was just really, it was kind of, you know, there were gay people, but you weren't out about it.
Wow. So it's a place where you actually did feel like you had to, like, couldn't really be open about it.
Yeah, it's a different world because, like, I had some gay coworkers, like, you know, I have them now, and, you know, everybody knew they were gay and everything, but I was just so scared that someone would, like, hate them for it, but no one did here, and I was like, it just felt weird to me. Like, that they weren't scrutinized or criticized for being, you know, a gay couple.
Which is, it's so... It's just, I mean, intolerance in general, no, it freaks me out. It just doesn't, because in my head, it doesn't compute. I'm like, how is this? It doesn't compute that people go out of their way, like, to be hateful to any group of people, but like, especially like, you know, in the gay community, just like very passionate about this. I'm like, what are you like yelling about? Like, it makes no sense.
Like, bro, I'm just trying to have a good time. I'm just trying to live life.
The same shit like you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, that's literally like, that's what you want. Like, why? And again, because of, first of all, it's I think it's really like just, it's another level of hatred to like go out of your way and like hate somebody for just being themselves.
Oh yeah.
And then on the other end, like on the selfish end, be like, you're wasting so much of your energy and time to something so stupid, which makes in turn your life miserable. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
If you were just chill, you wouldn't be mad about all this shit, and I'm pretty sure your life would be better. Yeah, like, it's so simple.
And it's funny because another thing about that is I will just expect shit to happen because, you know, it did in Alabama. So me and June I think we were at a Waffle House. You know, I was kind of holding his hand, but this dude comes up, you know, this very country looking guy, you know, red, you know, alarm bells in my head automatically. Yeah. But the only thing he comes up and says to June, because he's wearing a Tool shirt, he just says, "You like Maynard?" And I was like, oh my gosh.
But I mean, that's funny, but that's kind of sucks that like, because of like your upbringing, where you came from, like that thought exists.
Yeah, and I hate stereotyping people too. It's just like my head automatically thinks that because this person looks like how, you know, like really country or something.
And it's tough to sometimes fight those like when experiences have happened like over again, but it's part of like the job of that. Like, you need to fight that. Like, you should be, you know, hey, it's not okay. Like, again, call yourself out as well, like on stuff like this. Like, oh, okay, it wasn't okay that I assumed that. And you also can't be like, see, like, I knew, or if it was like, see, if it did happen, like, it's also not okay. But like, see, I knew like that they were like that, because it's the same type of prejudice that people try to spread. So it's tough, because I think everybody has prejudice. Like, they just are. It's your job to you know, fight against them. Like, if they're, you know, good or bad, like everybody's just individualistic. So you can't, like, that's why any generalized statement is fucking garbage, like, in my eyes. Like, anytime you say, like, he's like, oh yeah, all of these people do this or think this, even good or positive, you're wrong. I go, because it's not true. Like, there's never been like an all people, unless it's like all people die. Like, there you go, that one is true. You know what I mean? But like anything else, like you're wrong, like, automatically. But yeah, it never made sense. Growing up, I don't think I ever. It was always, I think, just in everything that I knew, anybody who was gay, or that was when it was seen as like negative, and like it was really seen. Well, that was like people around me. Luckily, my mom just didn't know enough, but she had like, her best friend was gay, and like, she, you know, she's like, basically like, oh, he's cool, you know what I mean? And then like, it was always like that. It's just she didn't understand the scheme of it. But again, like, they were friends, and she noticed all this. There was just some stuff, because she had there's a story that she tells me all the time, and it was like one of her coworkers. I was gonna say he probably still is, I don't know, but he's gay. And then I think my mom had bought me a computer, like, way back in the days, those giant fucking wide ass computers, big ones. And I mean, she didn't know how to set it up or whatever. So it was like, oh, he was like, yeah, I do like IT stuff. Like, if you want, I can come set it up for him and show him how to do it. And he's like, oh, okay. So he comes by, and I was like somewhere outside, I think. And then I come in while he's working on the computer, and he's like, oh yeah, you do this. And I think he was just gonna reach to like move me out of the way for something. And my mom freaked out. And my mom was like, oh, and this was like during the whole like whatever AIDS crisis, where people were like, you know, that was all the news, like, oh, these people, this and that, and it was all this misinformation going around. And she like jumped, and then he himself was like, he's like, don't worry, like, I'm not gonna touch him, this and that. And then my mom's like, I felt so fucking bad because of all this like outside, you know, misinformation and like this prejudice that I had like unknowingly developed. I made someone feel like shit. And I was like, and I felt like completely bad. Like, I spent like the rest of our time just apologizing, because I'm like, that's not fair to him, it's not true, you know, all this stuff. And but that's when I know, it's like, I go, you know, you can learn, like, it's okay to be wrong about shit, but it's you have to be okay with being wrong. Like, you know, you're not right about everything. And once I incorporate that into my life, like, it's made everything so much better. It's like, you know what, I just don't know everything, and it's okay to get new information. You can disagree with shit all the time, it's like, but it's just, you don't have all the answers. And again, being able to experience it, because I don't think I really paid attention maybe to a lot of those concerns until I started to have, you know, gay friends or like non-binary friends, or and speaking to them, be like, okay, what does this mean to you? Like, because I can't get all my information from somebody who said that this person, this is what, you know, this is what they are, or this is like how, I'm like, that's not how it works. I'm like, what are these people? And then you just realize, like, oh, they're all just regular ass people that just, you know, like different things. It's like, it's what it is.
Yeah, another thing is just people are like, oh, I didn't know that you were with a guy, I didn't know you were gay. They just expect you just to go like that. Like I don't know what to say. It's like, you know, I've never really been someone that's too feminine. I've always just kind of, you know, I've had my beard and everything. So a lot of people, they expect you just to like be a princess or something like that. If you're like gay automatically, I'm like, no, I'm just a regular dude, I'm just here.
And that's a prejudice that people sometimes don't want to understand. That it's like, no, and again, which is why, like, I think it freaks people out or something, because whatever they're thinking of, oh, that's not, you know, people, and they assume like, no, like, you know, they make a generalized statement about like a whole group of people and don't realize that like people around them are all like that. I'm like, like this person, you know, you know, it's like, oh, this person's gay. Oh, I thought, you know, I've literally heard I think the phrase like, oh, they were cool. And I'm like, what do you mean were? Like, what the fuck just changed about them? I was like, literally, it made no fucking sense. And I think actually one of the coworkers I used to work with, literally we were just having lunch and we were friends, and literally out of nowhere she was talking, and then she goes, yeah, there was these two gay guys kissing, and I was just like, man, don't do that shit in front of my kids. And I'm like, I don't understand. I go, is it just because people are like, is it the PDA or is it you or is it the gay? I was like, either way. And he's like, I don't know. Yeah, why they have to do? I'm like, because they're people. People are allowed to fucking kiss in person. Like, I don't understand what's the difference.
Making out or something, or doing more than that in front of your kids. You know, it's like, it's not going to hurt your kids.
And also, like, and then after that, I think the conversation built to like, it was like, because I was like, why is that like weird for you? And that was like, I didn't come out as accusatory. I was just like, I go, why is that weird? I wanted to understand. I was like, why is that weird for you? And he's like, well, like, because then I have to explain to my kids and stuff. I was like, which you should, because those people, people exist. I go, it's not like if you don't tell them, like they'll never find out or what. It's like, what's the plan here? You know what I mean? Like, this is the world.
And
like
that too. And it's like, if you tell your kid, it's like, oh, mommy, why are these two guys kissing? And you tell them, then they just go on to the next thing. Kids do not care.
It's not that deep for kids. And then like the more casual you are about it, the more kids are like accepting as like you grow up. And like, if a concept is not brought to you as something like completely out of the ordinary to kids are like, cool, all right, like isn't that like, this is why like for example, like switching gears, like hate is taught like that way because I think I think the biggest example that I have is like racism. Like, I never got that either until like I was like a little older, because I'm just like, if the kids wants to play, like we're gonna go play, like whatever. And it's like not till like you grow up and see it. I'm like, oh, why do people hate it? Like, it doesn't make sense. Again, that's why like for me it is infuriating, because like I don't get like how this aspect of their life, which has nothing to do like with you, like or this and that, like is making you mad and like makes you not like them. I go, you don't know them. That's the part. I'm like, if you don't know somebody's character person, like I don't understand like how you could already hate them, because that's the word people spread around. It's like,
exactly.
Like, it makes no sense to me.
I would like have friends, or they would have my friends, they would have a sister or something, and they would get a black boyfriend, and it would be they're like, oh no, I don't know what my grandfather's going to say about this, or my uncle or something like that. They are real. I don't know how they are about that around here, but in Alabama, like interracial stuff, they, especially if it's a black guy and then a white girl, they, for some reason, they just like freeze up, and I don't know why.
It's weird, but the only and I felt like it's probably, so this is probably the opposite of what you felt. So my aunt lives in Atlanta. And I drove through. I drove to Sincere one time, so I drove through, Alabama. Oh yeah. And I went to a store, like a convenience store, because we needed to get gas, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go get an energy drink or something. And I'm walking around the store, just like normal, and then like I see like I walk in, the people at the counter stop talking, and literally just like I'm like, oh okay, maybe they're talking about something. I don't give it a second fucking thought. I just walk through it. I'm looking at like energy drinks, and I grab one, and then like someone's like following me, and I'm just like, I didn't notice until I left, and I'm just like, okay, and I'm walking, I'm looking at like chips or something, and then the guy stopped, and he's like, what does he say to me? He says something to the pound. He's like, oh, did you get what you need? And I'm like, no, yeah, I got this. Like, I just wanted this. I'm just looking at this. He's like, yeah. He's like, well, you get your stuff and then go. And I'm just like, I was like, oh, well. Okay. Again, I didn't think about it. I was just like, oh, yeah, like I need to get on the road or blah, blah, blah. So I like grabbed something, I pay, and then like I was like, all right, now there's like, now get out of here. I thought that in my head, I've never experienced it. So I'm like, people are being playful. I'm just like, oh, yeah, I'll get out of here. And I'm like, hold the fuck. I was like down the road when I was like, they were being racist as fuck. I was like, wait, hold on. And I was like, holy shit. Like, it took me analyzing it. But again, like I have never really experienced that here.
Yeah.
To where I noticed. I mean, I'm sure it's around, but it was so. I've never experienced so blatantly that I was literally so like just taken back, and I thought it were being funny, and I'm like, oh no, they were just being hateful, and I'm like, it was weird. Again, I'm like, they don't know who I am. I go, it makes no sense that it's because of your culture or the color of your skin. The most arbitrary thing. You have no fucking choice in that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so fucking weird.
Do you happen to remember the town?
No. I can probably find it because it's along the, I can't remember what. I think it's just 30 that gets all the way to Atlanta, but so it's one of the towns along there.
Okay, I was like, I can guess.
It was so funny. I was just like, wow, this is so wild.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing is like, people people will be like, "Oh, you should go here," and I'm like, "Well, I get hate crime there." Like, yeah, okay, I don't want to go.
Yeah, well, like I still hear even in Texas though, the idea of like what is it, sundown towns?
Oh yeah, sundown towns. Yeah,
and I was clueless about this, like, but and somebody was I think it was online that I saw it, but I'm like, that's not a thing. And then I met someone there like, no, that's a thing. I'm like, what? And I'm just like, yeah, you definitely don't want it. I'm like,
nope.
I don't ever pay attention to this shit. Like I go wherever, like, you know what I mean? And I was like, wow, like that's absolutely crazy to me that shit like that exists in this modern as fuck age. Like how the fuck is that still a thing?
Well, yeah, it's usually areas where you have to go way out in the sticks to get there.
Yeah,
you kind of almost have to go out of your way to get out there. It's just a different culture.
Yeah, I know.
It's strange.
It's very, very interesting. Again, like I have I don't know. I think just this day and age, everybody like values just controversy, and you have to pick some sort of side. And I'm like, bro, just don't be a dick. How about that side? You know what I mean? Like, be nice to whoever it is. It's so, I don't know. Like for me, I'm just like, it's just really easy. Like I don't get like all these people like literally go out of their way, spend whole ass days protesting people's fucking funerals, people's like every fucking. I was like, that's so fucking disgusting.
And that's another thing is like with social and everything. If you put negative headlines on YouTube videos, it's going to perform better than positive.
Yeah, yeah. It's wild. I noticed that. And obviously, it's very like well known, and it's just that's why what you have to take away from social media that no matter like all these things that you'll hear, it's a fraction of what like actual people like are. You know what I mean? Like, because they have the hate's gonna get amplified. Anyone opinions, and then like you have two issues with it. One is like, you get opposite opinions that they know are going to trigger you, and you're going to want to say something. And the other thing is that you'll get stuck in an echo chamber where people will just say exactly what you're saying, and it just make you, oh, I am right. Look at all these people saying it. But again, that's just a few fucking people.
What was it? I was thinking about the Sleep Token album right there. Take Me Back to Eden. I think it got a really low score on one of like the reviews, and I was like, they did this just to get clicks. And then it has so many comments on it, so many just so. And
it works. You know what I mean? It works. It works for that reason. It just sucks that that's the way like they have to think about it, and which is why there's one of the things on this like particular like podcast when I was making it, I'm like, that's not what I'm gonna do. Like, it's not a clicks thing. I go, literally, it's just for whoever's here. Like, it's not about, that's why literally, I mean, at the beginning of every podcast, I always ask everybody, if there's shit you don't want to talk about, that's perfectly fine. I'm not a fucking gotcha reporter where I'm like, well, back in 2000, you said this, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's like, it's just there's a way to just do like honest shit, and like it's not your clickbait, because that's what it is. Like, that's also the thing that sucks is like every article there's a clickbait title. You go off that title and just like, oh fuck it, I don't need to read this, and then you read it, I'm like, has nothing to do with that, or that wasn't even like fucking true.
It'll
like,
be taken out of context. I always think of the Scooby-Doo movie where he's like, Coolsville sucks.
No.
I don't know why, but that's like my biggest example of the just whole negative thing.
Dude, it's just really weird. It's an interesting time to live online, and like there's people that's their day, man. They're getting online, and it's like, okay, who am I gonna fucking argue with today?
True.
Or commenting on every. I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about. I was like, oh, you used to get into fucking internet arguments every fucking day, and it's like, it's like, it's exhausting, and I'm like, yes, you realize that even if you don't agree with someone's opinion, you don't have to engage. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to just be like, okay, just scroll by. You know what I mean? It's just like if you feel you have to engage every time, I was like, you're not going to convince people online, about whatever change of opinion, and it's just like, if you just want to argue, you just want to argue, but you're gonna waste your energy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think another thing with the whole online thing, especially anything in music who you associate with, is if that person turns out to be a scumbag, somehow it's going to come back on you. Like,
which is fucking wild.
Even if you don't know it, you're like, they could have done something terrible, and then because you were involved with them, they're like, wow, you're awful too.
So have you seen this where they like will do that? I can't remember who I saw. I didn't happen to know who that person was, but I saw someone, and they were like commenting. Like, I see you're friends with this person. You're fucking terrible. Do you not know this and that? I'm like, well, hold the fuck on. Like, what? I was like, what do you mean? Honestly, like, it just it just happened to us recently, actually,
really?
to NoiseROT. Yeah. So they were like, why are you working with this person? And he's like, do you not know that they do this and that? I'm like, no. And then like everything that they were, I was like, I didn't. How the fuck are we gonna know? I was like, now, given new information, we can find out and do, like, move forward. I go, but you can't fucking come at somebody with like information that's not like widely known and like expect like all of a sudden like, oh, like you were fucking terrible too. I'm like, but fuck that.
I'm just doing my,
Yeah, like you can know a lot, especially in this, especially like working in music or even in this scene. I go, you're gonna get to know a lot of people at face value. Like I see people at shows, this and that, blah blah blah. Like I don't know who they are. You know what I mean? Or like what, like how the fuck?
Well, that's the thing too. Is just you learn just to trust people at face value and what they give you. Because, you're not going to know everything about what somebody's done, what somebody hasn't done, because a lot of this messed up stuff they do behind closed doors. Yeah. So you're not going to know until it comes out.
And again, I even like to the point of like, because I mean, how many fucking times have you seen people do terrible shit and it's like people's sons or brothers and be like, oh, they would never do that. Yes, because like that's the shit they hide. Exactly, you know what I mean? Like if they're good at hiding, like even the closest people aren't gonna fucking know.
Yeah, exactly.
But the whole blaming like other people around you, it's like, oh, especially like when it's about, oh, I see your mutuals in the sense like, I'm mutuals with a shit ton of people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how the fuck am I going to get blamed for it, too?
I think what it is like, I think I saw either a show or podcast on it, but people want to take actions in some way when they feel helpless. Mm-hmm. So that's what they do sometimes is they find some way to take action because they can't do anything directly. So like, how do I help this situation? Okay, well, this person was mutual, so they're also bad and stuff. That's what I think it stems from. It's just people wanting to try to make a difference in the situation, but they can't.
Hopefully that's the meaning behind it, but that's definitely not the way to go. Yeah, definitely. Go about it. Like it is not the right way. Like people are responsible for their own fucking actions.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And that's the main like thing you should take away from that. It's like that's who you hold responsible for like anybody who did whatever wrongdoing you did. And again, with this day and age, like you can't take stuff like that also at face value because you see every which way. You see people like claim like different things, and then it turns out that shit's not true. Then I'm like, I don't know who the fuck to believe. Like especially like if I don't know who the fuck is saying information, I'm like, I don't know. Like you know? So
definitely,
my biggest thing is like I'll choose to just stay out of it. If I don't know any like these people and I don't know the information or like where it's coming from, I'm like, how am I going to trust like
just try to stay out,
And it's tough. It's hard. Like you're never going to be 100% like right on all these things because you don't know all the information, and it's just tough.
Well, it's one of those things too. Is like I wasn't. I didn't come to the music scene just to, get into the drama, get into the sides. I just, have a good time, make some friends, make some connections, take pictures, Yeah. I try not to support, I go out of my way to try not to support abusers or anything. But, honestly, I just want to make friends and have a good time.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Again, I if there's somebody that rubs me the wrong way or I've like heard shit like that, I'm like, even if I don't know whether it's fully true, I'm like, that's my choice whether I get to support a person or not. Like I don't have to,
definitely.
But all of a sudden, somebody coming after like somebody who didn't do anything, but it's like, oh, you know this person, or you know.
I think I remember there was one guy who did. I think it was that child abduction thing, and I think people that were. It was like it happened maybe a month or two ago in Texas, but then people that were in the band with him, people were like, whoa, why were you in a band with this guy like forever ago? And it's just like. How did they
I don't know. Yeah, it's again. If you're saying like people are trying to do something and in their eyes they think they're doing something good, but it's definitely not the way to go for it. Oh yeah, go with it. There's other ways that you can help out, and then sometimes there's just nothing you can do, and that's it. But you can use. I wholeheartedly support the information. Like if there is information, and you are like, oh, this person's an abuser and you choose not to support a person, absolutely, that's the way to go. Like, you know what I mean? Like, completely do that. And I don't feel I feel like people who spread that information to others and be like, again, there's a way to do it. Like, if you come to me and be like, hey, this happened, this and that happened, okay, I get to take that information and now use it with like everything else that I know. Because also like people approaching strangers and being like, this person did this. I was like, I don't know you either. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I give it should be okay to give me a chance to be like, okay, let me gather my bearings and like understand like the entire situation. But telling me shit out of nowhere, just like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. Like, and being bombarded is kind of not the right way.
That's always been the funniest thing on the music scene to me is, before I really moved here, I was in the Atlanta scene a little bit, but, I never been involved in the scene. So I'll just be talking to people around here like, oh, I can't believe John joined a new band. John who? John 5? Like, I don't know what John you're talking about. And it'll just be like, I think a lot of it is kind of like a small town because there's so many cliches and niches. And then you go out and talk to somebody on the street and they're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean Toxic Hambone is playing with someone else?
There's tons of like music, and I think that's one
of the things is a lot of people just like, of course you take it seriously, but you need to have fun.
Both, yeah. I think again, accountability is super important, but also you can't completely become obsessed with that, and then that's what rules everything you do. Again, because it goes back to the hate thing. You get involved in just hating all the time, where that's the emotion you feel most out of the day, and then you realize that shit leaks into everything else you do. So then people start not wanting to be around you because like you suck to be around.
Exactly. Yeah. Just negative.
So you have to take that information, but you can't hold it in because then again you just radiate that, and again it's just not the right way.
Like it's not huge, like it's no allegation, but there's been some times where I've been scheduled to shoot bands and they've canceled on me 5 minutes before, and sometimes I've still shot the pictures and sent it to them, and I still say good stuff about them because I just don't want to put any more negativity out there. Even if I get screwed over, it's like I don't like putting out negativity.
I feel that 100%, and if there's ever anything like, again, so I can let's say I was doing something like that. Let's say I was taking pictures and that happened to me. Cancel. Okay, I'm not gonna like then publicly go out and do it. Now I can choose not to work with them again.
Yeah.
I go, but I'm not ever gonna mess with somebody's like career. If it's again something like that, I'm like I can choose to be like, hey, no one tells me. I'm not gonna work with them. And if somebody asks me like, hey, I will like don't have to lie and be like, I'm like, oh yeah, last time I did this, they canceled on me like this. Your choice, though. Yeah. I mean, but going and amplifying that a bit, looking for a microphone, and be like, oh, okay, let me talk this. Again, I think it's all depends on the situation and what you're, saying. I mean, there's obviously stuff that's way, has a bigger gravity than that. That you might want to go out and reach out like that.
Definitely.
But there's also other ways like, okay, if I don't have to put any negativity or like bad stuff out there, then I don't have to.
Yeah, and that's the thing is just if I deal with a crappy person, I'm not going to say... Because I've seen people where they'll deal with like one or two crappy people, crappy promoters. They'll write off the entire scene.
Yeah.
This entire scene sucks. I'm like, you've only interacted with one bad person. You can't write off everybody.
Yeah, it's just... It's so at the end of the day, it's just lazy. You know what I mean? It's just really like, oh, it's easier to just... Everyone sucks, or like all these people suck, or like this and that. It's a very interesting way of thinking. I think it's just at the end of the day, it's just lazy. It's like, okay, you don't want to do the work and to work with somebody else or trust somebody else. It's easier just to let's get rid of it altogether. You know what I mean? It's easier to run from something and just quit it than again continue to be like, okay, maybe let me find out who they are, because again, it's always your choice. Like you can always choose to keep finding, like, let me see other people to work with and stuff. But if you're just like, oh, they all suck, then again, it's that general statement that you're always going to be wrong.
And that's that's coming from experience. Yeah. Like I used to have a me versus the entire world type mindset. Everyone I don't know why I thought it, but I used to think, instead of everybody being neutral to me, not knowing me, everybody just hates me automatically. And it took a while to get that mindset, but it's made my life so much better. Yeah. Because you realize that a lot of people just don't know who you are.
Very, very, very true. And again, you make so many friends out here. Like it's
you do.
It's what's outweighed that whole, because I remember, I've always done a really good job of staying out of drama for the most part, but like it was a point in time where like I was hearing a lot like, oh, this band did this blah 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 blah, and I was like, fuck, like is it all shit? Like you know what I mean? Like, and having that thought, and then like now with just like going out to the show, dude, I make like new friends like all the fucking time.
Oh yeah.
And then everybody's so nice. I talk about it a lot, but like I was not. Yeah, I'm in the word is scared. I was like scared like for like hardcore shows and the hardcore community. I'm like, this is like I'm not gonna fit in here. Like they're not gonna like me. And literally, I've made instant friends. Like, and I was like, dude. First of all, like a bunch of my friends already play in bands. And and then like just the people shows, I was like, oh, these are just passionate people. Cool.
Yeah.
Like I know what to like accept, and I made a bunch of friends there. I'm just like, and it just reinforces the idea. Is like, oh, okay, I just got to be open. Not everybody will be my friend. Not everybody's for me, but hey, be open and you'll find some good stuff.
Well, that and at hard shows, people just are intimidating sometimes. Looking like, I'm not saying they look bad or anything, but there'll be a lot of big burly dudes that are like not, you're not really smiling at a hardcore show. Doesn't mean you're not having fun.
Yeah,
but
yeah, very true. I think that's what it was. It was like that idea. And I'm just like, yeah, and I'm sure that like sometimes I'm making that face too. Like, you know what I mean? And I'll probably look the same.
Like these people like pissed and out for blood, and they're just like, oh yeah, that was amazing, nice to meet you.
Yeah, yeah, they're like the funniest of these people. Yeah, absolutely. But I think the scene's done more good for me.
Oh yeah,
than anything else. It's made me meet some amazing people and have some like the best times ever. And I think that's what it's about. Like you seek out to be part of something. Community is the biggest thing I think people like search for, like in anything they do. And I think you moving here was a right move to find like a better community to be part of, especially with music. And then just, I would say in this area, definitely a little more accepting like culture.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, based on
it
your
is,
saying, yes,
definitely.
But, yeah, dude. Honestly, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate you coming by. You are Dallandria.
Yep.
Dallandria. That's your Instagram. Is that on everything?
Yeah, Dallandria photo. That's on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, TikTok.
Threads.
Yep.
I need to get on Threads.
So it's on those 4.
Nice. Well, I always look forward to seeing more of your work. You're doing some cool shit.
Oh, thank you.
We need
so
to get
much.
that print, and we'll have it up here because I love that's a picture. Actually, it's a picture of Ricky playing with Golden Week. But yeah, that picture is fucking great. I love that picture. But I hope you keep doing cool shit. You keep growing and developing what you do. And then you've only been at it 2 years, and we're just gonna be more cool shit to come. But,
yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Just keep trucking ahead and learning what I can.
Oh yeah, that's the right attitude for it. Well, thank you, Brent, for coming by, Dallandria. This is in episode 73 with Brent from Dallandria, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Sounds and breakdowns. Better lose your man. We should run away together while we still can.